Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys had a lovely Christmas and New Year's. And it's that time of the year where we are going to go through my worst books of 2021. Now, this list wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be, but there's a couple, so I'm just gonna get started with this because I don't want to waste any more time talking about these books ever. So let's just get started. So I'm going to talk about the 3 I DNF'd to start with, and then we'll go into the ones I actually did complete. So one of the first ones I did, which is probably one of the most popular ones here on BookTube and Instagram. I know. Some of you are probably going to hate me for this, but my first DNF was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. What is the hype around this? Can someone explain it to me? Because this was so effing boring. I can't even remember what half of this was about, and really, who cares? This just bored me to tears. Honestly, watching paint dry was more interesting than this book was. Yeah, basically, there was, I think, a girl and a boy who were supposed to be set against each other, but I got halfway through this and I just was bored out of my little mind. So why this book is so popular, I do not know. It basically has no plot. That's all I can say about this. This is what is the hype around this? Can someone please explain why people like this so much? I really do not know why. That was that one. No. Now, the next one I DNF'd was, in fact, a sequel, but I read the first book, gave it 2 stars, but we'll get to that. But the second book I DNF'd was The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. Now, this is the sequel to A Deadly Education, which I am going to get to in a minute, but the first book, the writing style really gave me the shits, and this book was no exception either. So yeah, I DNF'd about 25%, and I would not pick it up again. Which brings me on to the third DNF, which was Crushed by Tracy Wolff. So this is another sequel. I will get to the first one and why I hated that in a minute as well, but yes, this was way too much like Twilight for me, and this is coming from someone who loved Twilight back in the day. So before you at me, I did love Twilight, not so much now, but this was just so painful. This is one of the aspects of why I cannot stand, and it is when the love interest falls for the bad boy at the first time she sees him. It's not realistic. I mean, come on, people. It is not realistic whatsoever. She just, as soon as she sets eyes on him, oh, I love this guy, oh, I can't stay near him. I'm like, bitch, really? No one falls in love with someone at first sight. Okay, it doesn't happen. So, moving on to one of my first worst books of 2021, which, as I just mentioned before, was The Last Graduate, which was the sequel to this one, and that's A Deadly Education. So I love Naomi Novik, don't get me wrong, I love her books, but what the fuck was this one? So in this one we follow Elle, who is basically part of the school that essentially tries to kill its students, and there are no classes, no whatsoever. Now, if you were going into this blind, you would not know that because the world building is fucking shit. I know I'm probably going to get demonetized for this, but actually, you know what, I'm not even to have a big subscriber count, so it's probably not going to, but it was fucking terrible. The writing style in this was what gave me the shit the most. The concept is good, the execution was horrible. Just the amount of times the main character went off on a bloody tangent to something else, I'm thinking, honey, bring me back to where we're at here, because I don't care. I really do not care. I really struggled to finish this. I'm pissed that I didn't DNF it. the only reason I started the sequel at all was because the last bit was just interesting enough to keep me going. But sadly, I hated this. I would not recommend it. Pick up Naomi's other books. This, I'd miss it, because just, no, just no. Alright, so one of the other books I have to mention here, which I do not have on me, because it was a library book, but it was Crave by Tracy Wolff. Now, as I said with Crush, this basically reminded me way too much of Twilight. And this is coming from someone who loved Twilight back in the day. I really do. I really did love Twilight. I was obsessed with Twilight when it first came out. I loved it. I read all the books. I saw all the movies. This just reminded me too much of it. I don't know whether that's just because I'm getting older and crankier, or whether I just hate the idea of someone instantly falling in love with someone. Pretty much from the second she meets the main character, Jackson, I don't even know what the hell his name was, but as soon as she met it, I'm like, yeah, you want to sleep with him, darling, you do. I hated it. I nearly DNF'd it at 50%. Kind of wish I did. The second half picked up a bit more, and like A Deadly Education, I fell into the trap of thinking, maybe book 2 will be better. It wasn't. It was shit. It was horrible. I think this is probably the most vocal I've been on this channel, but we're talking the worst books of 2021, and I got opinions. So, yeah, those books are just, oh my god. So, we're going to move on to probably the one that was one of my most anticipated for the year, but sadly did not hit the mark for me. And that had to be I Want to Be Where the Normal People Are by Rachel Bloom. Now, I came across her TV show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend earlier this year or late last year, and I absolutely love that show. I highly recommend it. It's on Australia here and on Netflix here in Australia if you guys want to see it. But do not, if you are, for me, the biggest gripe I have with this book is it was a classic of trying too hard to be funny. I'm sorry, like, why do some comedians do this? Like, you can write a memoir as a comedian and still be funny. This, to me, was just trying way too hard. It's essentially... Let me just find a review, because it was so long ago that I read this, I just do not know. Okay, yes. So, basically, my main two gripes with this book was she essentially tried way too hard to be funny. Like, I read Billy Connolly's autobiography this month, and I laughed more at that. I laughed more reading that book I laughed more in the first maybe 200 pages of that book than I did throughout the whole of Rachel's book. She was just trying way too hard to be funny. Like, you're a comedian, honey. It's not that hard. Just do it naturally. And toilet humour. You know, do not base a book on just plain toilet humour. It's not funny. I don't care. Like, and I think, Jesus, won't you try and talk about bowels or something? I don't know. Really got to me was, I think she essentially used the fact that she stars in a well-known comedy, and that is generally funny and made me laugh, to essentially sell a book that was not. So I really was disappointed with this book. Like I said, Billy Connolly's autobiography was more interesting than that. Basically, I'd rather watch someone mow the grass than read this book again. It was horrible. It was not funny at all. Sorry, Rachel, honey, but it was not funny. Okay. Who I want to talk about was, so the first one is one that I read way back. I think it was in early February, March, I can't remember, but this was an indie book that I'd seen sort of all over Instagram and through some booktube channels as well, some of the more popular ones. But yeah, sadly this didn't hit the mark for me, and I have to say that was for Tunas by Kelsey Sutton. Now, I love supporting indie authors. I'm all for it, you know, they need the space in booktube, Instagram and that, but the start of this started off really good for me. Like, I liked the concept of it, but the rest of the book just felt, I can't remember what it was, but it just felt like there was something missing. So the premise of this book is essentially there's a young girl who's essentially trying to find a brother who went missing 2 years ago, but she then makes this deal with this fairy prince, I think he was, and essentially to get his help to find a brother, she had to marry him. Like, that's the story I have heard too many times. Just, yes, I can understand why some people do like it, but for me, it just felt like, it just felt very average. I don't know whether it's because there's too many stories like it that I've read, and it felt like it was a thing that was done and that has been done too many times before, or whether I just did not like the characters. The main character for me was fine, she was okay, but she just seemed to get a little bit too dull throughout the second half, and sadly I don't see myself picking this up. Hopefully other people do like this, but sadly for me, it's a no. Alright, and the last one I want to talk about was probably one of the first book I read in the month of, well, pretty much at the beginning of the year, and that was Self-Help by Tanya Hensey? Yes, Tanya Hensey. So, my best friend recommended this to me, and I feel so bad that I didn't like it. So, Tanya's another comedian. I think she's here in Australia. I don't know. I don't really know too much about her. She's not my type of comedian I go for normally. I thought this was sort of like, the way it was sold to me, I thought it would be more of like her personal experiences and that, but I think I skimmed through half of it because it just didn't hold my interest. It had recipes, and then it had other stuff. Look, it's that far back in the year, I can't even bloody remember. But yes, I don't know what the point of this book was. I thought, from my experience reading about it, it felt like it was going to be more of an autobiography, whereas it was a mixture of too many things. I was bored. Like I said, I skimmed through pretty much the rest of it because it just didn't hold my interest. I should have DNF'd it, but sadly here we are. So yes, okay guys, so that is my worst books of 2021. Again, these books were pretty boring. Yeah, so that, I'm going to leave it here because I am a little bit tired as filming this, so I'm going to leave you guys for now, but thank you guys so much for watching this. Do let me know down in the comments below whether you guys read any of these books, and if you did you enjoy them more than I did? I hope you enjoyed them more than I do, but if you didn't, sound off in the comments below as to why you hated them as well. But that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so already. If you liked the video, please give it the thumbs up as always. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.